Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching the PropsClear podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Angeline. We're talking all about drones and about improving public perception surrounding the unmanned aviation industry. These episodes are for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only, so none of this constitutes legal advice. Fasten your seatbelts and let's get started. Today's guest is Pearla Cordero. She is the founder of the Women in Aviation International Guam chapter. She's also the founder of Bella Wings Aviation, and she's the flight attendant at a major U.S. airline. Buenas and half a day, Pearla. Thank you so much for joining the PropsClear podcast. It's so nice to have you on, and it's nice to be able to say half a day to someone here on this podcast. You and I have a special connection because you grew up in the Marianas. I worked there for 3 years. I was so excited to hear about your beginnings on Guam, the beginning of your life on Guam. Tell me about your fascination with aviation from such a young age.
Well, buenas and half a day to you too, Jillian. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's an honor and pleasure to always be able to come onto these shows and talk about aviation, right? And I think, in our previous conversations, we both have expressed our love for aviation. So thank you again so much for having me here today. My fascination, oh my God, where do I start? As a little girl, I've always wanted to be a pilot. I would have to say to start there. And I would run out of the house because, back in Guam, as you know, it's a small island. I would run outside when, we're where my home was positioned, actually anywhere on Guam. We're on the flight path, we're on direct flight path. So I live not too far from the airport. It's about 5 minutes away in Upper Tumon, Guam. And every time that plane would fly over my home, I would run outside and just, try and catch it or something. I don't know, reach up to the sky. It's mine. But so that's where my fascination started. And in a nutshell, I had an individual, a mentor who I was very, very, very lucky and blessed to have in my life, came to me at starting at the age of 16 and started telling me or encouraging me. He came to my home starting at the age of 16 and always had an application in hand and would be telling me to apply to a major U.S. airline. So I'm currently today a flight attendant with a major U.S. airline. I've been there for 26 years, but going back to how I got in is my mentor down the street, a neighbor down the street from me. He would come every year, starting at the age of 16, hand me the application and say, "Are you 16? Why don't you apply to this company?" And I would be like, "Oh, I'm only 16." So up until 19, that was the age that you were accepted. Age. Yes, it was the magic age. And so he came again, application in hand, and he was like, "So, are you 19?" And I'd be like, "Yes." And he's like, "Okay, well, this is what you need to do. You're going to fill out this application. You're going to go to the hotel, and there's going to be this whole cattle call. At the time, they called it, right? A cattle call. Show up." And he gave me the whole rundown on how I needed to look, what I needed to wear. He saw at the time I was a beauty advisor, right? Or sales associate. And so he saw that my nails were color white. He was like, "And you need to get rid of that white nail polish." I'll never forget that. So I did all that. However, I did not listen to him about the white nail polish and showed up at my, the interview cattle call. Anyway, it was this whole process. And it was a 3-layer process. So you would take, it was an English proficiency test. And we went through that and everybody took that test, right? So there were almost over 500 people vying to become flight attendants. Yeah, it was crazy. So we were all shoved in that one room taking that English proficiency test. Anyway, it cut after taking that test, it cut like half the room. So if your name or if your number was called, then you go on to the first interview. And so at the first interview, you had this panel of interviewers, and there was like 20 of you that they were interviewing one by one, right? Like in front. So you were really competing with 20 other people in that set. So it was a full day. It started at like 8 a.m. and didn't end till like
Mm-hmm.
6 p.m. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was a whole process. So anyway, long story short, I made it to the last interview. Yay me. But it was quite nerve-wracking because
I'm sure.
initially in line, when I was standing in line to get into that ballroom,
Yeah.
I bumped into some friends and they were saying, I was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and leave because I don't know what makes me think I'm going to make it here today. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
people. And they're like, yeah, no, Pearl, why don't you just stay? You never know. They
Mm-hmm.
convinced me to stay. I stayed. And lo and behold, I was one of the selected few. And to this very day, I'm so proud to learn of others who make it through that interview because I know how extensive and nerve-wracking it can be, especially if it's something you really want, right? And or a dream that you've had for so long to not just be a flight attendant, but to be in the aviation industry. So I support it 100%. Gosh, I could talk about that whole day forever, but I'm sure you want to move on to other areas.
The fact that you had 500 people or hundreds of people at
Hmm.
that job fair and then the tests to become a flight attendant. We were
Right.
talking about this on the phone earlier. A lot of young islanders in the Marianas, in Guam, on Saipan, they are finding ways to get off the island, get off the
Sure.
rock, as a lot of them say,
Sure.
and they look for those opportunities where they can make more money to help their family back on the islands. They go into the military.
Yes.
They get an opportunity to travel and see the world because a lot of them don't leave the island except for maybe a few school trips as they
Hmm.
grow up, and they have this desire to, it's almost like a very extreme version of cabin fever. They want to be able
Yes.
to get up to see the world, and this is an excellent way to do that, to be a flight attendant,
Absolutely.
because you're based then at home on the island. You still get time with your family, especially the island community. It's a very strong family culture, but you also have an opportunity to grow and have an opportunity to see the world in a different way. And you got to
Correct.
do that. And one
Yes.
of the things that I loved in our call is that you said that you found your calling was helping others pursue the opportunity to become pilots, because that was something that you had wanted to do for so long, and then you realized that your dream was to help others do that.
That's correct. Yes. And I love everything I'm doing. I mean, a lot of times there's a lot that goes into that, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
um, we'll go into the nonprofit here, right? So I also founded Women in Aviation International Guam chapter. And the idea of that was to get more women involved or in the aviation industry, primarily to secure a position to become pilots. Yes. But there's so much that goes behind that. It's, being able to fundraise so that you can be able to award scholarships, to those that are
Mm-hmm.
on their journey. Every now and then there's a struggle when trying to obtain your licenses, right, or certifications to get to where you want to be, whether it's to become a commercial pilot. And it becomes, I mean, financially, it's quite the struggle. So being a part of that, you see a lot of the struggles, but when you see your members making it through, right, and just you see their success, they keep you a part of their abreast of their journey. It's that's where you find the gratification in everything that you're doing, right? So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the background behind the scenes work that goes into helping others, it's such a struggle, but when you see your members making it out there, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, this is why I do what I do. And then not only that, like recently, Guam hosted its first Wings in Aviation, oh, I'm sorry, Wings in Paradise event, and it
Mm-hmm.
was the first aviation open house in Guam, and it was hosted by our nonprofit, Women in Aviation Guam chapter. And so we had partners that joined in. It was the Guam International Airport, IRE Services, and Trend Vector, the only two flight schools on Guam. And then we also have,
Mm-hmm.
and I really need to highlight this, is Star Marianas. I know we had this conversation
Mm-hmm.
about Star Marianas, you know, and
I've flown Star Marianas to Tinian. It's, I think, the shortest flight in the entire, United States soil. It's like a 7-minute flight, and they
yes,
always put me right next to the pilot. And then right before you take off, you got to shut that door. It's
yes,
it's a quite an it's quite an
yeah,
experience to be able to see that, but be able to see those beautiful islands from up above.
yes,
All the
yeah.
World War II history that's on those islands, you can see from up above. Runway Able on Tinian, where so much took place during World War II. Just
Hmm.
absolutely incredible.
I love the island flights. There's so much to see there. Yes. So yes, so to highlight on Star Marianas, it's not just an
Mm-hmm.
airline that connects people to the neighboring islands, but it's actually one of the top, if I'm not mistaken, I just recently learned this, one of the top 10 places to go to build on flight hours. So that's, I mean, just imagine, the ecosystem in that is so key to those
Mm-hmm.
who are thriving in, pursuing their private or pursuing their pilot's license. So having Star Marianas there was not just to highlight on, their services, right, their inter island services, but also to
Mm-hmm.
highlight on, hey, you're a student pilot. This is what you're doing. This is where you can come back home and build on your hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I love, love, love that. So much that goes into this entire everything that I'm doing today. It's such an ecosystem. So from becoming a flight attendant to actually I myself I hold my private pilot's license. So that's where the journey started as well with building on Women in Aviation, the nonprofit to help others because it was a struggle for me to obtain my license, right? And it was always a
Mm-hmm.
dream ultimately to become a pilot. And had I
Mm-hmm.
known all the information I know today, I would have
Oh.
been exactly where I wanted to be, as a pilot. And I
Mm-hmm.
still, I am starry-eyed when I see other women pilots on my flight because it's still quite rare that you see female pilots.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do, I get excited. I'm like, hi, by the way, I love that you're a female pilot. I've always wanted to be just kind of share your story and it just becomes a bond between the two. But um,
Mm-hmm.
so much love for the industry and there's still a lot of growth out there. So for anyone who is, looking towards pursuing a position anywhere in the aviation industry, there are so many positions out there. I encourage,
Absolutely.
those who are looking forward to securing a position in this industry. There's so much room. There's so much room. There was a gal who came out to Guam. Her name is Destiny. I speak
Mm-hmm.
very highly of her and her position. She's also with a major U.S. airline, and she's actually
Mm-hmm.
a recruiter. And it was refreshing to hear her perspective, what she does in the industry, how
Mm-hmm.
she contributes to the industry at all, not just on a professional level, but also on a personal level, because she too
Wow.
has all, she went through her struggles and, maybe you'd have her on your podcast one day, but I loved hearing her story because how she got into how she secured a position in the aviation industry is, it was a struggle for her to get home to Guam, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the tickets are astronomically insane,
They
right?
are, and they've gotten worse since I lived there.
Yes, so it's not easy for anyone to just, pick up on a flight back home for, emergency purposes, right? A family, family member in the hospital or, losing a
Mm-hmm.
family member. It's not the easiest travel,
Yeah, I think
transition.
it was
So,
about, for anyone who's interested in or curious. I think when I was flying to Saipan, it was about 2 grand for a round trip flight. And I've looked
yeah.
at flights in the past 2 years or so because the pandemic impacted a lot of the routes, and a lot of the routes were eliminated and then didn't
Hmm.
come back. I think it's up to at least 2,500 or close to 3 grand now.
Oh, I don't doubt that. As a matter of fact, I believe over COVID. No, I'm sorry, not over COVID. I think it was during the last major typhoon that we had. It was so
Mhm.
destructive, and we hadn't had one in I think almost 20 years. And so there were people who
Mhm.
were trying to get home and they just couldn't because prices were,
Mhm.
I think, up at like 5, 6,000. I think someone had posted
Wow.
12,000. I was like, what? This is insane. And so, going back to Destiny, she got into the aviation industry because she was like, there's got to be a way to solve this problem. Like, I need to be able to go
Mhm.
home when I need to or see family members when I need to. And so
Mhm.
she was able to secure herself a position as a recruiter. And so she goes out and she shares
Wow.
her story. And when she heard that WAI was having an event in Guam, she went to her company, asked if they can send her out to Guam for this huge event, and they
Mhm.
did. Unfortunately, we were challenged with another typhoon, so we had to postpone the event again. And
Mhm.
so what we did is we made sure we were able to highlight her presence on Guam.
Mhm.
We set up a workshop and I was so taken aback by how many people in such a short notice showed up to
Mhm.
her workshop.
Wow.
I was so pleased with it. I was beyond excited. All these young um, aspiring students, a lot of high school
Mhm.
students showed up for this workshop and she was able to, answer a lot of questions, provide some guidance and that's exactly what Women in Aviation is all about, is being able to provide guidance and resources and mentor others who are trying to secure themselves in the aviation industry. So much that goes behind everything that I'm doing and the organization and my love for aviation. I can't stop expressing that um, so
I
much
know you got a
because
drone on your shirt. I love that.
yes,
I think
yeah,
that's
and that
fantastic. And
so
I think you're I think mhm. Sorry.
this is Bella Wings Aviation.
Oh,
This is
BWA. There you go.
yes, this
I
is
love
my
that. Do you
company.
I think you had mentioned to me that when you set up that workshop, Destiny had at least 50 students in one
Yes,
of those flight schools.
yes,
So it shows that there is demand
there
in
is a
that
demand.
region for
There's a need.
aviation.
There's a need for guidance. There's a need for mentorship. There's a need for networking because there are so many who want that position just as bad as we did when we were younger or
Hmm.
even today, right? There's still people my age who are seeking to secure
Hmm.
themselves in this industry. Um, and it's never too late because there's like I mentioned, there's so much room for anyone to secure themselves a position in this industry. There's so many. It's not just being a flight attendant. It's not just being a pilot. And there's other positions out there that may work for others, right? So
Hmm.
maybe being a pilot or a flight attendant or a mechanic is not what you're looking for, but
Hmm.
you want to get in the marketing industry. You want, there's so, there's human resources and you still get the
Hmm.
benefits. You still get the same amount of benefits. You still get you still get all the perks that come with being in the aviation industry. And I think a lot of that a lot of the drive comes from the perks, right, of being able
Hmm.
to
Absolutely.
travel. Yeah. So that's,
Yes.
yes, yeah. So I mean, I can't help but highlight that's where the drive comes from too, is I'm a person who loves to travel and this is where I need to be. And by this time in my life, how is this going to work for me and what's going to get me there? And so aviation is, that's the highlight there, right? Is okay, how can I get into the aviation industry? So again, going back to, helping others from this tiny island of approximately 80,000 people, right? Yeah, you want to be able to help, your community. I want to be able to be there for my community and there's I don't want anything in return other than to see others pursue and really succeed
Hmm.
in their dreams or their wants or being able to help their families as well because
And there's room for everyone.
there is
It's
room for
not
everyone.
like, there isn't room. There's room for everyone.
No.
And you talk
Yes.
about there being, women are still a minority or
Yes.
in the pilot industry or in the aviation industry. It's
Hmm.
like that in the drone industry too. I've seen
Yes.
that as I've gone deeper into the drone industry. And so tell me how you got involved in drones. How did you go from being a private pilot to saying, oh, I'm interested in unmanned aviation as well as manned aviation?
Across the board, I have a great love for aviation. And so, COVID, thank you to COVID, and not all of us can say thank you to COVID, but Bella Wings Aviation can. And it was through COVID that we came up with the idea that drones would solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, the idea to be able to deliver critical goods, whether it's
Yes.
medication, blood supplies to the hospitals. As we all know, we were all on lockdown, right, during COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us couldn't, make it out of our homes, or
Mm-hmm.
there was a high restriction depending on where you're at. But on Guam, there were a lot of people, like our elderlies, who really had to confine themselves because there was such a concern for them, right? Or people with health issues.
When you say elderlies, I know the name. It's Manumko.
Yeah.
Manumko is the Chamorro name for the elderly population, both on Saipan, Guam, and in the Marianas. And there's such a respect for the Manumko, and that was one of the things that I absolutely adored on the island. Is it was such in so many cultures, especially here, like in the States, there's retirement homes and there's senior
Hmm.
living. In the islands, it's all about the family taking, their mothers and fathers and the elderly in to care for them. So it's all that
Yes.
it takes a village mentality. And I really like that.
Thank you so much for knowing that. That really warms my heart. Yes, my uncles are very, very. We want to be able to protect them. They're very key to who we are today and our continued growth. As I mean, as you know too. There aren't that many Chamorros out there now. I believe
Hmm.
there was a documentary on Chamorros, how we were going extinct. So,
Really?
yes,
I did not know
yes.
that. Oh
The
no.
weird, there's no true, like, real bloodline. We're
Wow.
we're all mixed, right? So we're all mixed. Like, I'm Chamorro Filipino. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't even want to get like into that, because then there are some people out there that get really sensitive about that, right? Like, but yes, our monuncles are, we definitely wanted to protect them. So, going back to, how Bella Wings was started, is um
Hmm.
my business partner Charlie. He
Hmm.
he comes from logistics, right? So he's a
Hmm.
logistician, and I come from the aviation side. And so we thought, okay, how can we solve the problem with, our, people not being able to leave their homes, and how can we get items delivered to their homes? Because we
Hmm.
also started a delivery company, through it's another entity. Like, we have other businesses as well. So it was a delivery company during COVID, and we started delivering to homes. And through that, we learned this is some hard to reach areas. How can we
Hmm.
solve that? And so
Absolutely.
drones, we did some research, and we thought drones can solve that problem. And so we started to test into it. However, we learned through all our research that through the FAA, there's a lot of limitations as far as
Hmm.
delivery process. And so we thought, okay, this may not work now, but we're going to continue to hustle through it. And so, you know, constantly doing, doing our research, collecting data, a lot of proof of concept. We continue to process through the delivery aspect of drone
Hmm.
services. Um, how to we also, it was also, okay, this is not going to work. So to sustain ourselves as a business. So how else can we, how can we sustain ourselves as a business, as a drone business? And we thought, okay, well, let's get into other areas. And so other areas
Hmm.
included search and rescue, mapping and surveillance. A lot of research went into this company, getting this company going. and being able to survive in the industry, because there was no way. We were
Mm-hmm.
already invested, right? We were invested into this, making this work. And so we thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, um, another thing that came up was the drone light show. So on the sexy
Mm-hmm.
part of drone services, we thought entertainment, and when I saw that, I thought, oh my God, I ran to Charlie and I was like, we got to make this work, right? We're going to do this on Guam.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
Yes.
that's so important. When I was just this July 4th, I was watching the fireworks in New York City from the summit, which is one of
Uh-huh.
the highest points in all of Manhattan. And right before the fireworks kicked off, there was a drone light show. And they were putting drones in the shape of the Statue of Liberty. And it was just such a cool experience to be able
Yes.
to see something like
Yes.
that and to see the impact that drones can have, where this is a great way to improve public
Hmm.
perception on drones. For a lot of people who may be concerned about what drones can do, yet an entertainment value to something, and
Yes.
people start to see an even stronger value.
Well, Jillian, I invite you to Guam for behind the scenes drone light show. You would be so taken aback, so amazed with the entire drone light show behind the scenes. It is so dramatic, and I know you have your
Mhm.
107 license, so you should come out, and maybe be our co-pilot in that. I think you'd love that experience.
I'll be on the
It's
next flight there. I'm all ready for the 82-degree consistent weather, the 100% humidity, believe it or not, and
with a
my hair might be
little
a little
hard
bit more
rain,
curly, but that's about it.
with a little hard rain here and there that would kill your curls.
Yes, that is true. So now you've started Bella Wings Aviation. You talk about the importance of diversifying your services to be able to meet all of those needs. You also mentioned the importance of being able to use drones to connect with the outer islands. There may only be 5 people that live there at a time, but especially after storms, they get completely cut off for a very long period of
Hmm.
time. And while those islanders do know how to survive in very harsh conditions because they're up there without much power, without any running water. They still need supplies.
Correct.
So to be
Yes.
able to fly a drone up that way instead of I've never taken that boat trip from Saipan to those northern islands, but I have friends who have taken it. The seas are very rough. It is
Yes.
not an easy trip. It's
No.
at least 2 days of a trip. I think at least. I could be wrong on that. You can correct me.
Well,
But I know it's a very long trip, and it's a very difficult trip. So if you could get on one battery a drone to fly up supplies back and forth, that's going to make a huge difference for those islanders that want to live
absolutely.
in those remote
Absolutely.
islands.
So we started testings for that for inner island deliveries out in Palau, and I believe it was also Ponape that we had done some testings, and the islanders welcome it. It is such a
Mm-hmm.
solution. And also, another thing is being able to protect, the waters, right? Our sea life, right? There's a lot of poaching, a lot of, so also on a security standpoint, drones solve that problem. There's such a huge uh, solution to being able to protect our waters. So it's not just the
Mm-hmm.
delivery system, but being able to protect, um, the 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 areas that are highly poached, right? For as far as
Mm-hmm.
fishery. So we I love that the governments that we've reached out to has allowed us to do some testings out there have
Mm-hmm.
really welcomed the technology, because we're only going to continue to pursue the delivery process, because I highly believe I'm a strong believer that drones are the wave of the future, and they're going to definitely solve these hard to reach areas as far as deliveries. And when we were out there with while we were doing the researching and testings and data
Mm-hmm.
collection, we came across a lot. I mean, the islanders, they want this, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's
Absolutely.
it's it's not only safe, right? We also provide jobs. We're providing opportunities for people to secure a skilled profession, right? As a drone pilot.
A technical profession too.
Yes, yes. And so
Yeah.
being, this again, I'll continue to, to say it as, this is such a great ecosystem that we're
Mhm.
building here, because it's there's so much room for growth for not just a business, not just my company, right? But also for the islanders themselves. So whether it's Guam or Saipan or
Mhm.
Palau or, all the other neighboring islands, everyone's gonna benefit from this
Mhm.
industry, because we are either securing jobs, um, solving the delivery aspect of it, being able to provide critical goods to hard to reach areas. That is so key to, having a better lifestyle in these areas, right? So if there's something that was critical that needed to be delivered, that drone will get
Mhm.
there in less than 30 minutes, in less than 15 minutes,
Mhm.
depending on where the island is. But, and not have to deal with, because today we still have manned aircraft that's scheduled into certain islands, and
Yes.
they can only go in like maybe once a week or twice a week. But drones, you load these drones up with critical goods,
Mhm.
and it takes off, right? You launch those drones, and they're there in no time. It solves that. It solves that critical need. So there are so many aspects in the drone industry that Bella Wings has secured themselves. So ultimately, we've decided that we would become full service providers, which included
Mhm.
pretty much all aspects of services. So
Mhm.
we have been blessed with a strong team back home that's been able to adapt and diversify themselves as well, not just
Mhm.
with the company, but also as individuals and as professionals, skilled professionals themselves.
Mhm.
That if we would, if someone called for search and rescue, can we do this? Yes, we can. Are
Yes.
we prepared for it? Yes, we
That's
are.
amazing.
Yes. And another thing that we just added to our services, Jillian, you'd be
Mhm.
so excited to hear, is aeroblasting. Um, we have drones that go up and clean high-rise buildings.
That's
And
important, especially in Guam. There's a
yes,
lot of high-rise buildings, and especially in Tumon.
yes, and being in a tropical place, you get a lot of mold, mildew, right? And um,
Yes.
so it's an easy clean. And it's more
Mhm.
efficient. Safety, as far as safety, time efficient.
Mhm.
The drones solve that problem. And my partner Charlie also had just recently mentioned in an interview is,
Mhm.
a lot of people are concerned that drones are taking away jobs. No, that's not true. Drones are actually securing skilled professionals, right? So
Mhm.
you're not at the bottom of the totem pole when you're trying to secure yourself, with a job these days, right? Because now
Mhm.
technology has continued to evolve. And with the drone industry, it's only going to continue to evolve. So being
I
able
agree.
to have people secure themselves in a technical professional position, that's something that
Mhm.
you got to be proud of, right? In today's
Mhm.
time, and then also in the future. So being able to contribute to that, it's again, I can only say, like, that's where you find all the gratification in everything that we're doing today, because the behind the scenes, it's quite the struggle. Like, nobody sees all the behind the
Mhm.
scenes, but when
Right.
when you're able to solve problems and really identify, helping others to just not just to grow as well as individuals and professionals, that's where you're
Yeah.
saying, you get to go back and say, this is why I do what I do. So again, a great love for everything I do, because you're also helping others, right? So not just being able to solve technical issues and delivery issues or saving lives. That's such a big deal,
Mhm.
right? Saving lives.
I remember, I was only there in Saipan for 3 years. It was the most life changing 3 years of my life, and I loved it, and I miss it every day. But there are many times when I was there where there would be searches for, someone who fell overboard on a
Yes.
boat, or
Mm-hmm.
something going on, and then you'd always see,
Yep.
the Coast Guard chopper took off from Guam to go help with
Right.
that search and rescue. That
Right.
that's also putting those pilots and those people the Coast Guard in danger too,
Yes.
going on in these remote missions, in a very vast ocean. This is the Marianas, which has the Marianas Trench, some of the deepest
Yes.
oceans in the entire world. So if you can have an unmanned drone do some of that work and can search in a very methodical manner and know how to look for the thermal signatures, learn how to look
Right.
for something moving other than just the waves, that's going to help so many people, and it's going to
Absolutely.
make the work so much faster when you talk about search and rescue, especially in such a remote area.
100%. 100%. And it's been proven. It's been proven to help in that area. So again, and it's only AI is only going to get better and better. Drone
I
technology is
agree.
only going to continue to evolve and get better and more, I guess, more accepted into today's society, because people are going to learn that it really does help solve a lot of issues out there, right? So I can I there's so much to talk about as far as aviation, whether it's the drones, or whether it's manned or unmanned. There's so much to talk about.
I can feel your passion coming through the screen and coming into my ears as well. And I think it's just so amazing that you want to make a difference, not just in the States, but in the islands where, they're often behind the curve of what's going on in modern technology.
And so
Fast internet came a little bit later on Saipan, because I remember those days of, trying
in
to
2017 or 2013, when you're out there.
from 2013 to 2016, it wasn't as fast as it was here in the States. So everything seems like it's a little bit farther behind there than here. And you know what? Some people like it that way, there, because it's a lot slower pace of life. And that is one
Yes.
reason why you kind of feel this disconnection, and it
Hmm.
kind of feels good sometimes.
Yeah.
I won't
Yeah.
lie. It's good to go there and feel like you're disconnected and get some of that biophilia that some of my friends talk about, the sound of the waves, the sound of the rustle of the palm trees, that fresh island air, that warm water.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful thing, and it's so good for the soul.
It
But
really
I think
is. It
drones could
really is.
really make a difference. And when you talk about, search and rescue, when you talk about, aeroblasting, I could also see a real consumer use for drones, because I have friends that would pay the $400 flight to go to Guam just so that they could go shopping and get what they needed, because sometimes Saipan didn't have what they
Right.
needed,
That's
or
true.
it
That is
would
very
be
true.
much more expensive if they bought it on Saipan versus going to like
Correct.
sorry, versus going to like a Ross, versus going to like, any of those stores that were of Home Depot. We didn't have a
Yeah.
Home Depot
And
on
and you
Saipan.
see
So being able to
a
see
lot
that.
of, yes, I'm so sorry. You see a lot of coolers. I had to throw that in there, Jillian. A lot of coolers when people are checking in I had to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to throw that in there, that you see a lot of coolers that are checked in, because the islanders, they've shopped, like you mentioned. They not It's not just shopping for, clothes or whatever. They shop for food in Guam, because it is a lot, maybe a lot more savings. But you would see these coolers getting checked in, and they're filled with, some type of protein, some type of meat or fish or whatever it may be. But
Or you fish off the coast of Palau and then you bring it back to Saipan.
that too, yes, that too, yes. But another thing, I'm sorry, Julian, I wanted to add is, with Bella
Hmm.
Wings, another area that we did tap into is education.
Hmm.
So it's not just education, but education and manufacturing. So they kind of go hand in hand. We
Hmm.
were able to secure a contract with the Department of Education at some point, and we provided, if I'm not mistaken, about 20 drones. We built 20 drones, and we partnered up and offered this. It wasn't just, here are the drones. It was, let's, train the trainer, right? So
Hmm.
we trained some teachers, and we were able to, share what drone technology is all about, and get more
Hmm.
of our students involved in the drone industry. And so
Hmm.
on the manufacturing aspect of that, those drones were built in the Bella Wings flight lab. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it was drones that were built in the flight lab. So they were, they're US made. They go back into our educational system. It was, our first contract. So that was, that's something to really be proud of, because you're not just,
Mm-hmm.
you're work. It's proof that we can build on the island, right? We can make this happen as
Mm-hmm.
far as manufacturing drones, and
Yeah.
also, how it gets dispersed, right? So the use of the drones. And so getting it into our educational system, that's so key to getting more people involved in the aviation industry, or even becoming a part of the drone industry, right? So more technically skilled students and skilled young
Mm-hmm.
adults, further into the future. So being able to contribute to that, again, that's also another area that I have to say that we're really, really proud of. Also, we started a summer program and we
Mm-hmm.
partnered up. I don't know if you heard of Drone Legends,
Mm-mm.
but we partnered up with Drone Legends, and they have this amazing educational platform. So they already have they have the syllabus, right? So they have all that put
Mm-hmm.
together, and you take that syllabus, you take that platform, and you apply it. So what we did was we opened up our flight lab to, if I'm not mistaken, 7 years to 13 years of age. It was a
Oh,
summer
that's a great
program.
age.
Yes, yes. Again, contributing to the younger we get them started, the better, right? But not only that,
I agree.
because in this day and age, we're already starting, our young ones are already in the era where technology, they're born into this, right? They're born
Mm-hmm.
into technology. Why not get them started in more learning more on, technology that's going to help them sustain their
Mm-hmm.
future, right? So getting them, to be able to fly drones, understanding how to not just to fly it, but understanding how to troubleshoot, building them,
Mm-hmm.
it's understanding all of that. So that's a really technical
Wow.
aspect of the drone industry that we've also tapped into in Guam. So being able to contribute to that, that's also something that we're very proud of, is getting
And is that
our
also
younger
through the Department of, is that, oh, sorry, is that also through the
that's
Department of
okay.
Education? Or is that somewhere through another, is that through Bella Wings?
That was through Bella Wings that we did the 7 to
Okay.
13 years of age. That was through Bella Wings. So we were actually awarded a grant. And
Mm-hmm.
we offered this, we opened the doors. It was a free summer session.
Wow.
So again, I believe we had 14 students that we
Wow.
accepted into this program, this summer program. A lot. I mean, again, you see them, they get excited about this,
Wow.
and the parents
Mm-hmm.
too, right? You can see the parents like, oh, they get excited that their children are a part of this, they get to
Mm-hmm.
learn and grow from it. And then it builds an
Mm-hmm.
interest, right? Okay, this is not just, it's something for our islanders, our island community to really get to hone into and get involved in,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not, again, I can't express how much of a technical skill that you want to be able to, for our our young community, or even our high school
Mm-hmm.
community, young adults, to really gravitate towards, is just the technical skills of uh for their future, right? Just securing that
Mm-hmm.
into the under their
Absolutely.
belt. That's what we want for our for our young ones, right? That's what we want for their future, is skilled professions, skilled, being a part of a
Mm-hmm.
skilled industry, getting them started at such a young age. It's so key
Mm-hmm.
to who they become, and what they, what they become in their future. I think Bella Wings is doing a pretty good job at it, being able
Are
to
you kidding
contribute
me?
to.
I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I think what you're doing, not only doing the drone services, but also educating the students on Guam. I know you mentioned to me you're working on bringing that kind of education over to Saipan, which I'd love to help with, by the way.
Yes,
And I think what
yes.
you're doing to be able to get them excited at such a young age, at such a formative age, going back to the beginning of our conversation when you talked about being so young and running outside of your house to watch the planes take off. Those are the formative years. I started reporting at
Yes,
7 years old for the local cable station in my hometown.
I
And that's
love
what
it.
solidified my desire to be in the journalism industry.
I
So
love it.
it's that age where you start to really expand your knowledge, and a lot of the people that you talk with, if you know about their profession, they talk about having that passion from a young age, no matter
Hmm.
what industry they're in. So if you can get them excited about aviation, that's going to help them in the
Yes,
long run. And then probably by the time they're, teenagers, they can go and get their Part 107, and they'll already,
absolutely.
like most people, they'll actually have flown a drone before they even get their Part 107 in
Correct.
that
Yes.
camp, to be able to learn about that with the help of instructors. Do you know the age of the kids that you worked with through the Department of Education as well, that was separate from that camp?
I believe they were, I believe they were I believe it was middle schoolers. So about, um, I'm going to say middle schoolers about 15, age 15.
Still formative years
Yes, yes, yeah.
that you're
But
working with them.
yes, but that's, I mean, that's also that's one thing that we want to be able to change is the idea
Hmm.
that you can start as early as you want when it comes to the aviation
Hmm.
industry, right? Especially in the drone industry, you can start as early as you like. Um,
Hmm.
we want to change that mindset that you don't have to be an adult to do this, right? You don't have to be you can, I mean, people do it for recreational purposes, right? You can fly a drone, just do it safe. Like that's key is, and that's another thing Bella Wings, I think we're doing a good job at is being able to, educate the community on safe flying. I'm actually, so I actually, when I first got into, I'm going to back up here. When I first got into the drone industry, there was so much to learn because it was new, right? Although it's been around for many years, it was new to me. So I needed to learn what was legal, what wasn't legal. Um, so what I did was I got involved with the FAA. I became Guam's first drone pro safety rep. And so the FAA, yeah, so it's FAA's Drone Pro Safety Rep. So there's a bunch of us out there. When I first started, there wasn't a lot of us. Yeah, but now there's a whole lot of us out there now. I've connected with others in Honolulu. So I have a manager in Honolulu with the Honolulu FISDO and work closely under him. And I was recently named FAA Drone Pro Safety Rep of the Year for 2023. So, or was it 20? Yeah,
Congratulations.
2023. So we, again, a lot of involvement in the community to make sure that, it's not just getting people involved, but make sure that people understand what they're doing
Hmm.
out there. We don't want to um, we don't want to mess it up for the rest of us who are really, who
Absolutely.
really love the industry and and know we not all of us know what we're doing, right? And a lot of times you're kind of learning
and
as you
and
go.
Guam is and Guam is such a military hub for the
Yes,
Pacific. So as
yes,
I've learned here in the US, there's a lot of flight restrictions, especially around military areas and then around major airports as well. So Guam has a few things
a
going
lot of
on
restrictions, a
in that
lot of
regards.
restrictions when it comes to flying drones. It's not easy
Hmm.
flying in Guam. You really got to do your research. So that's another thing that we've
Hmm.
really a bunch of us drone flyers. We got together. That we have this little group chat. And when there are questions, everyone's pretty good at like chiming in and sharing their knowledge and answering others who
Hmm.
have questions because no matter what, you're always going to learn something new. Again, I think we're all
Yep.
learning as we go, especially in this industry. There's still so much growth in the drone industry. There's a lot of growth there, so a lot of learning. But yeah, I think everything everything that we've tapped into. We've also partnered up with this company, Valkyrie, and that's where the manufacturing has kind of not stemmed from, but we partnered up with them
Hmm.
to tap into another area in the industry and being able to secure jobs, right? So manufacturing drones
Yes.
in the CNMI, possibly, right, in Saipan. And also, you know, so Valkyrie has this delivery box system, right? And it pretty much is there
Hmm.
to solve the last mile, that last mile
Well,
problem, right?
Ryan
So
Walsh, who's one of the heads of this, a Valkyrie, he's got an awesome tagline for it: "Perfecting the last inch of the last mile,"
yes,
and that's one of the things
yes,
I love because that's what they're doing with these mailboxes. It's probably like a 7 foot tall
yes,
giant white box, and the drone takes off and lands on top. A little trap door opens up
hmm,
underneath the drone, drops the package in. A
yes,
robot inside moves it to a certain mailbox inside that area, and then the drone is able to take off and keep doing those trips, delivering wherever it needs to go.
hmm,
And that's definitely a push in the islands, as we were talking about, for something like that to be there, especially even during storms.
yes,
That's a big important
yes,
process. Is
hmm,
if there is power cut off to an area, if these drone boxes can have some kind of generator tied with
hmm,
it and can provide supplies when
correct,
people are struggling.
correct. Love Ryan Walsh. That he came out to Guam not too long ago, and yeah, I think we had a great time. I think he loved his time on the islands. He was able to fly out to Saipan as well, so he met a lot of people out there as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join on that trip, but when he was on Guam, I was there, and great guy. We also, I mean, we partnered up. I believe I think it's been 2 years now. And so we've been in, a working process with, the delivery system and the manufacturing side of the delivery system and drones. But love Ryan Walsh, love everything that he's doing. Again, I can't help but, and that's another thing, right? Because you go onto LinkedIn. I don't know about you, but me,
Mhm.
I have to stay away from LinkedIn because you see what's going on in the drone industry, and it's like, okay, this is what's going on, and then I start to get like real, I don't like this anxiety, like, wait, hold on, are we behind?
Mhm.
Are we running
Mhm.
behind? Because there's so much going on, right? Like, you watch all these video, you see what other businesses are doing, you're like, I feel like we're behind. Then I start talking to Charlie, my business partner. I'm like, you know what? I think we need to up our game because there's
Mhm.
so much going on. But no, we're not behind. It's me just, like, oh, okay, we got to do something. We got to do more,
But
But
that's what's keeping you going forward.
yes, yes.
And speaking of going forward, what is the next step for you? I know your goal is to keep all those services open with Bella Wings Aviation and the education component, working with the students. What do you hope for the next 2 years with your work?
I would have to say the deliveries. The deliveries are so huge. And it's not something that we put in the back burner. It's a huge process. It's a huge process, especially with the FAA. So um, we're being able to to go into, some of our neighboring islands and get the support from the government in our neighboring islands. That has been huge
Hmm.
for us. And that is the one way we're able to continue to process through this and really push through it, because
Hmm.
it's got to happen. That is my
Absolutely.
biggest hope in the next 2 years, is that we eventually start a consistent service in our neighboring islands, also in Guam, right? I mean, Guam is, we're I think we're pretty up to par as far as not so. I mean, there's still some hard to reach areas in the island,
Hmm.
but and
Yeah.
so we want to be able to solve that as well for our local community. Um, so when I speak of like our neighboring islands, it's because there are so many more islands out there that are really struggling to meet delivery needs, and I think that's where being able to go do these testings out there, and
Hmm.
kind of try and get a consistent type of service going. That is where we'll be able to come back to the island, to our island community, and say, okay, this is going to work here. Just
Hmm.
because there are a lot of restrictions, as far as the FAA. Not that there aren't restrictions in these neighboring islands, but there's a lot more
Yes.
flexibility, right? So, and a lot more remote
There's a
where
lot more
less,
open airspace.
right,
A lot more open
less
airspace. Yeah.
correct, less of a population that we have to, be concerned about, right? So, a lot of flying over water. Um,
Hmm.
the FAA loves over water, anything over water. So that's,
Yeah.
that's a plus for us, right? When we are doing these testings out there. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of safety aspect in everything that we're doing. It's gonna take some time, but to answer your question, ultimately, I think I just, that's where our focus is being able to deliver to these remote places. And I'm hoping to see some consistency in the next 2 years. Yeah.
There's a Netflix movie, and I experienced it actually in person myself, all about something called Operation Christmas Drop. The Air Force, every
Yes.
single Christmas time, they put on their don the pilots don the Santa hats, and they bring some guests onto the plane, onto the
Mm-hmm.
C-130s, and they go and drop off giant boxes off the backs of the planes that they open up
It's such a
to
huge
remote
thing.
atolls across
Yes.
the entire Pacific. And a lot of these islanders on those remote islands, these Pacific atolls, this is the one thing that they get all year
Yes.
long. It's the pots and pans. It's the
Yes.
books for the kids. It's all of
Yes.
those things. And they look forward to that one day. I remember flying on there on the flight. It's a pretty crazy flight too, because these C-130s have to hit a certain elevation for the drop zone to be able to drop these packages out that have a little parachute attached to them. And it's amazing to watch the islanders swim out or take a boat out to this box and then try and
Yeah.
bring it to shore. And but that's once a year. if,
Yes.
if we could get
Yes.
the deliveries to work
Yes.
where there are deliveries going on all year long or once a month to some of
Mm-hmm.
these remote areas. I know it's going to cost money, but compared to gas mileage on a boat, compared to the dangers
Correct.
of, being on remote seas for long periods of time, this would solve so many issues so quickly,
It
and it
really
would
was.
really allow so much of the world to be connected in a very special way, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a girlfriend of mine had invited me one year, or she was recruiting a whole bunch of us to help
Hmm.
at the Christmas drop. And gosh, I wish I was on island to be a part of that because all the
It
photos,
was
it's
amazing.
such a
It was so
special
beautiful.
effort, such a special
It was.
effort. You want to be a part of that at some point in your life because you don't get to see below that drop, but you can
Hmm.
only imagine the excitement every year that comes from people below that drop. You just, I mean, again, I can only remember myself as a little girl, even just seeing that aircraft flying over. So
Hmm.
imagine, in these remote places, what they get to look forward to. So yeah, I hope to, at some point in my life, be a part of that effort.
I think they do put some journalists on the ground in some of those remote areas to get the reaction. I'm not sure if it's through AFN or the Air Force's network or something. I remember just seeing some articles where some reporters were based in some of those areas that they put them for the drop. It's a 5 or 6 hour flight, sometimes 12-hour flight that the Air Force does over probably a week or two before Christmas. But it's such a worthwhile mission, and it really goes to show the lengths that people will go to get something
Hmm.
from the air.
Yes,
And it's just such a beautiful thing. Well, thank you so
it
much,
really is.
Perla, for your time. I really appreciate it. I could talk to you all day,
I know we
and
can do this
hopefully
all
we'll be
day.
able to keep
I
this
agree.
conversation going.
Yes, I agree. Oh, again, like I shared with you, I have a great love and passion for the industry. I hope we can be able to continue this dialogue over lunch
Mhm.
or something. And again, that
Definitely.
invite, that's not an empty gesture. You got to come out to Guam and be a part of the drone light show because we're going to put your 107 skills to use.
With not just one drone, but how many drones?
100.
15?
We have 100.
100. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
100
yes.
synchronized drones.
100 synchronized drones. Yes, we're going to put your
I think that's
107 to
amazing.
work.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to start restudying a little bit, just refreshing my memory on all the little pieces. Although all I've heard is that if you just keep flying, getting that muscle memory, that's the best practice for anything like that.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Thank you so much for
Well,
having
thank
me.
you so much for your time. Thank you. If you have topics or suggestions for future episodes, email me, angelswings.jillian@gmail.com. That's ANGELSWINGS.JILLIAN@gmail.com. I'll see you later.